Story 1. There are many bot accounts commenting here. They are all 2 months old and use a first name and last name format. Story 2. It must really suck to find out you are someone's second best choice. Story 3. I'm not sure. I loved my wife, but she was not good to me. I cannot excuse the mistakes I made along the way. But the farther I get from the day she died and the more I pull back the curtain on our relationship with my family and friends, I had always promised never to be the husband who complains about his wife, so I never told anyone what I suffered through. The more I realize how badly I was mistreated. Near the end, I was even pushing for divorce because I was certain the relationship was going to kill one of us. Seems I was right. She was at times the sweetest, kindest woman I'd ever known. That is why I married her. But her demons consumed her. She became bitter and empty. She did not put effort into keeping a job, helping with the children, or taking care of herself, and she blamed me for it all. I have wondered since her passing whether she was the love of my life. She knew me better than anyone. After all, she had 8 years to learn. I missed the smell of her hair, the sound of her laugh, and the silly television and restaurant stories we shared. But I cannot justify the hell we both endured because of her. Story 4. Grass is always greener. Things like nostalgia and what-ifs can't possibly replace the work my spouse and I have put into this marriage. Story 5. I met my wife after the woman I thought was the love of my life left me for the last time. I was done with her, but I had been a sucker for 11 years. After meeting my wife, she became my love. Honestly, I do not think there is just one. There are 8 billion people in the world, and we meet only a tiny fraction of them, so we will never truly know whether someone else might be better. But what does better mean? Some relationships clearly do not last, and if you have a love of your life, you are lucky. Some people fall into whatever comes along. I was very lucky to find an amazing woman after realizing I had been a fool in the other relationship. We have been together 17.5 years, and it has been great. We have had good times and bad times. We fought and made up. We have 2 children and are very happy. Is she the love of my life? Yes. Was she that person by the traditional definition earlier? No. I am better off with my wife than with the other woman. Story 6. Is this post filled with bot comments? I see many profiles with usernames like first name, last name, and most of their comments share the same formatting. Story 7. No, he passed away in a boating accident while I was still a teenager. I still think about him. Story 8. He was not my ex, but we had chemistry. We were both too shy. Eventually he moved out of state and we lost contact. I am married now, but I still occasionally dream that I had just admitted my feelings to him and that he reciprocated. I do not know that he would have been the love of my life. I still consider that title to belong to my husband, but my subconscious continues to play out the what-ifs. Story 9. Every relationship before the one that lasts is a failure, even those with a strong what-if attached. Those of us fortunate enough to find one that lasts should be grateful for the failed relationships that prepared us for the good one. Story 10. It can be eye-opening later to see what the love of your life becomes. We can control the narrative about someone in whom we did not actually invest time. Story 11. No, she died. My husband knows that she was the love of my life. Story 12. It is hard. We endured the most difficult times of our lives together. We had intense chemistry and we loved each other. I will never have what I had with her again, and I still miss her. I moved away to pursue a big break in my career. She was heartbroken and we did not survive the distance. Within a year she married a man I knew and despised. She is miserable. I married a kind soul. She is the smartest, most thoughtful person I have known. We are doing well financially, and my family adores her. I regret letting my ex go, but I was fortunate to find someone who makes life feel worth living, even if the relationship lacks the spark of my previous one. Story 13. I miss him. He is dead, but life goes on. I married one of his best friends. I think we are both searching for him in each other. Story 14. I am the passion in disguise. I am glad she never sees me for who I am, but she still knows what she got into. I have tapered off over the last 15 years, And I have long known that going after a passionate, crazy woman is like pouring gasoline on a fire. She is the only woman I can ever see myself with. Story 15. We were simply at different places in our lives. There was a 6-year age gap. I look at my life now and cannot imagine it any other way. I am so grateful for where I am. A wife, 2 healthy children, and enough money to feed them. Who knows what I would be doing if we had stayed together. I still miss them a great deal. We had many fun times together. It feels like yesterday when we were together, but it has been 10 years. I still dream about them too. There is a poem that says, "And your feelings never really change. You just stop paying so much attention." Story 16. I got married to someone else but never let my ex go. Eventually, I divorced my husband for many reasons. The first thing I did was reach out to that ex. I thought now that we were a few years older we would get our lives together. But we burned bright and fast and broke up. For the next few months we hurt each other by meeting up, but I finally stopped. I let go of my idealized version of him and accepted that no matter how I felt, it would never work. A few months later I met my now husband. He came into my life and I thought that if the side he showed me at the beginning of our relationship continued, I would be with him forever. He was that and so much more. I learned quickly that he is the actual love of my life. It has been well over a decade since then. No one could ever measure up to him or to how I feel about him. We are completely devoted to each other. On top of being the love of my life, we have a secure attachment and have never been volatile. Love is an action, not just a feeling, and we both remember that love is a verb. I thought I would never get over the first ex. But once I finally let go, I truly believe I needed that second time together. And I learned what love truly is. Story 17. Someone wise once told me to tread with caution when dating a widower, especially one whose spouse died early in the marriage. Her rationale was that the person never had enough of a marriage to move beyond the honeymoon stage. There were no major problems, disagreements, or fights. Because their spouse died so early and in such an idealized form, they would always compare a future relationship to that imagined marriage. I think many people, regardless of being widowed, have a fictionalized ideal, essentially the one who got away. We all want a greater love. It is unfair to judge our current or past relationships by who we once had or, more accurately, by who we once were. Story 18. We were great together for 3 years. We were planning to get married, and I got cold feet. She moved on before I realized what a mistake I had made. She told me she wished the baby were mine. I felt the same. Story 19. This may be different from what you are expecting. I was in a narcissistically abusive relationship and marriage, according to my therapist. If you do not know anything about narcissistic abuse, a cornerstone of this abuse is called love bombing. The person ramps up the impress your partner stage to 110%, and you feel like there could not possibly be anyone more perfect for you. She had me believing that God wanted and ordained this for us, and I could not argue with her. I married her and then learned who she really was. The woman I thought I was marrying did not actually exist. I married someone else entirely. That person was mean and spiteful, knew exactly how to make me feel 2 inches tall, and relished it. If I am honest, the red flags go all the way back to the beginning of the relationship, but I did not see them for what they were at the time. The first one I really noticed happened 8 weeks before our wedding, but I thought it was attributable to stress. By the time I left her for good, after a brief back-and-forth period, we had been together for over 10 years and married for 5.5. The relationship and breakup wrecked me so badly that I am still recovering from it more than a year and a half later. I have a wonderful, supportive boyfriend now who also endured emotional abuse, and we are both fortunate to have found a place where we can heal together, because that experience is traumatic. I do not speak to my ex-wife anymore. I walked out of the courthouse the day we divorced, blocked her on everything, and moved halfway across the country. I hope never to speak to her again. I still think about her often because the hardest part of overcoming narcissistic abuse for me is removing the little critical voice she planted in my head that tells me how wrong every little thing I do is, how pathetic I am, and how embarrassing I am. It is rough. Story 20. I don't believe in the whole love of your life idea. There are many different loves. And the chance that it is only one person among the billions on Earth is just silly. Each relationship is unique. Story 21. The first person I loved romantically hurt me so badly that I kept telling myself he was the love of my life and that I would never feel the same again. I did marry the love of my life, but sometimes I wonder if I am his. Story 22. Some of you are awful. You should have stayed single if you were going to pine for exes even after being married. Phew. Story 23. I married an older man I had a huge crush on. I am responsible for all the cooking, most of the yard work and housework, and I take care of the dog by myself. We have to keep a score sheet on the fridge, so he knows he has contributed at least a little to washing the dishes. Our sex life is poor. He prefers to watch pornography, and these days I do not want him to touch me anymore because he is unhygienic and constantly smells. I have pointed it out, but he does not seem to care. He also derives pleasure from my sadness. Meanwhile, he is always happy, constantly boasting to everyone about his amazing wife. I hate it here. Cannot wait to leave. I have the peace of mind that he would never leave me, but I am miserable. Story 24. I do not think I have had the love of my life, though for a long time I believed I had. I married someone else and am now divorced. I am over the person I once believed was the love of my life. Story 25. We married in our 50s. Before we met, each of us had so much history that there were many missed opportunities, potential loves of our lives. I know his and he knows mine. We feel no jealousy because if those loves had played out, they would have existed in reality rather than in our dream world. Reality is cruel to imagination, and I am happy to keep those loves locked in my head to dream about. Story 26. I will be honest. Sometimes I think about them, but in a kind of nostalgic way, as if it was a chapter. I love my partner now. It is strange how people can be right for a moment but not forever. Story 27. You know, despite the trauma I endured with my ex, I am still a better man today than I was 15 years ago. Story 28. After 15 years of marriage, it is a nothing burger. Rinse and repeat every day. No excitement or passion, just work, eat, shop, television. I am not sure how people do it. Story 29. I married for stability. The love of my life thought a 401k retirement plan was a Star Wars droid. Story 30. She passed away. We dated on and off for a few months. I wasn't mature enough to sit with what I was feeling. She had work to do too, and I was emotionally inexperienced, unable to meet her halfway and figure us out. Story 31. To everyone who feels bitter about not being the first choice. The love of my life, my first choice, was really bad for me. That relationship was the worst 2 years of my life, and it took me almost a decade to get over it. I have fonder memories of women I was not so attached to but with whom I had better relationships. I now understand I was better off with people I was not crazy in love with for all the wrong reasons. Being someone's first choice does not mean much if that first choice was a big mistake a few years earlier. Story 32. I thought I had not married the love of my life, but it turns out I did. I do not speak with my ex. I hope he is happy, healthy, and living a great life. Story 33. If I could just leave, I would. I have no friends or family I can turn to. I have been unemployed for months, struggling to find a job after being sexually harassed at my last 3 jobs. My dog is here. Everything my sister and I own is here. I cannot just walk away. Would have nowhere to go. The logical choice is to stay until I can get out or to leave and become homeless. I appreciate people telling me to just leave. I understand, and I am working on it. Sometimes I just complain on Reddit about my terrible situation because it is all I have. Story 34. My spouse did not marry the love of his life. She is the one who got away. He married me because her father did not think he was good enough, and he has never told me this. Yes, they are still in contact. The sting has never diminished. Story 35. I was with my ex for 4 years before I broke up and married someone else. I was never as committed to that relationship as he was, and he was not adamant about keeping me in his life either. I continued to keep in touch with him for the next 15 years. During that time, we both married different people, had children, and were very serious about our families. We also became each other's greatest source of comfort. If we had had that bond while dating, we probably would never have broken up. We eventually had to end the bond because the relationship was going nowhere and we had too much to lose if we kept it. Both of us are completely content in our married lives and would not change them for the world. Not even for each other. It's crazy. Story 36. I am trying to end the marriage now and hope to speak only about matters concerning the children once it is over. We have nothing in common, no shared social circles, and no reason to stay connected beyond the children. Story 37. I married my peace, not my passion, and I finally sleep well. Story 38. I married someone I now consider like a brother, my absolute best friend. We were so close and compatible it was hard to describe, almost as if we shared a soul. We were married for 10 years, and I was confused that someone could feel like a soulmate while the relationship still did not seem quite right. The love of my life and I grew up together. We were never a couple when we were young, but we had always been in love and remained in each other's lives as best friends. Terrible circumstances separated us for a while and the timing never worked. Eventually, we admitted the depth of our feelings. We had a brief affair, then told our spouses and asked for divorces. My ex handled it better than his ex did. We have been married a long time now. He and my ex are best friends. I know my ex and I were not meant to be a romantic partnership. My husband supports and celebrates how close we remain, so we do not have to pretend to be less close. My ex has a new girlfriend who seems unlikely to be jealous of our unique, close friendship. I am in pure bliss with my husband. Sometimes it all works out. Story 39. This is on topic for me now. I was married and was illegally divorced, long story. When my now ex-husband told me I could see whoever I wanted, it took several months to change my status on Facebook. I was contacted by several old flames. One in particular was someone I served with more than 30 years ago. He was the first man to truly see me as a woman and taught me to demand respect from others. And from myself. He was the love of my life and our relationship was incendiary. When we started dating again, it was like a dream come true, but slowly he became more and more disrespectful, like a frog in boiling water. I was being groomed. It took a lot of courage to walk away. My ex-husband and I have made amends. However, our marriage is over. As for the love of my life, I am still grieving his loss. Story 40. I'm sorry that you are going through this. I have not felt this way personally, but if I found out that my partner felt this way, I would have to end the relationship. It is not realistic to assume that constant availability and apparent loyalty mean they are not in love with someone else. I would seek peace, security within myself, and healing before choosing to stay. It is too detrimental to your well-being. You only get one life, and starting over is not the end of the world. Story 41. Wow, so sad to be the second choice. Did they also settle when choosing someone as their first choice who would pick them second? Scary stuff, laughing out loud. Story 42. I sometimes think about them, sure, but life moves on. I'm grateful for what I have now rather than what could have been. Story 43. I feel like I married her because I hoped it would help her return to the person I fell in love with. She made many excuses and empty promises about her chronic anxiety, irritability, clinginess, constant complaining, and lack of physical intimacy, blaming external factors such as moving, lack of close friends, coronavirus disease 2019, and uncertainty about the direction of our relationship. I worked hard to help her through all of that, but the same problems persisted and I kept trying to plug those holes. I hoped marriage would be one of the remedies. She is happier now, but I feel detached and too scarred from the fights and from carrying most of the burden to feel a strong connection. Story 44. I have been married for 11 years. I do not think I have met the love of my life. Story 45. The love of my life was my friend. I married a man who was a great father and worked hard for his family, but he was not the one. We were married for 42 years. The love of my life passed away a few years ago, and I still miss them. Story 46. Ultimately, it was the right decision for me. We have not spoken in years. He moved 2,000 miles away, and we blocked each other on social media when we realized we were kidding ourselves by thinking we would actually end up together. Story 47. This is not my experience, but my aunt found out her husband had not loved her for 8 of the 9 years they were married. He said he was always unhappy, that it was all her fault, and that our family had pressured him into our lives. To top it all off, he had his therapist tell her these things while he hid behind his hands. We later found out he was telling his therapist that she was a narcissist. He was the narcissist. We all tolerated him and doted on him on every family trip to avoid his freakouts and temper tantrums. He would hide at theme parks, and if we took too long to find him, he would scream at her for not caring enough about his feelings. It was awful. Story 48. To be honest, the concept of lifelong love is a bit of a myth. Sometimes what seemed eternal at 20 is no longer appropriate at 30. I have no regrets because with the right person I now have peace instead of constant ups and downs. Story 49. No, we do not talk. I am absolutely sure I chose the wrong one, but deep inside I am glad I did not waste her life wondering what if. I know I fucked up 100% and at least I have that. Story 50. I married the love of my life, and the little girl I used to be still loves him desperately. But that man abused me in almost every way for many years. These days he is a stranger married to one of the many women he cheated on me with, and I could not be happier. I have a boyfriend who shows me what it looks like to have a partner who plans a future with me, accepts my family, and supports me when I am struggling. Love of my life? I would not piss on him if he were on fire. Story 51. Someone's spouse has a Reddit account, and they do not learn about it until the divorce papers arrive. Story 52. The what if is always going to be a constant in the marriage. Story 53. I don't know. Why couldn't you marry the love of your life, and why does it feel like a love lost? Sometimes you really loved someone, but fate, blind circumstance, or even your own bad habits were just going to rob you of that person. Maybe you did your best to love both. Maybe the love was different for each person. Maybe you prayed like a wife who had lost her beloved, for someone's release from bad circumstances and for their salvation. Maybe, like a lost husband, you had to depend on someone else to carry you, and you loved them too. Life gets messy as hell. Story 54. I am so sorry for those who have experienced that heartache. That is why I cannot marry anyone else. I will always love my 2 beloveds. Both are with God now. If I married someone else, that person could never be my love of my life or my immortal beloved. Both of my beloveds took a piece of my heart and are buried. I am afraid that, despite any love I might feel for someone else, I would only marry to avoid unbearable loneliness, and that would be a horrible, selfish thing to do. I prefer to be alone rather than make someone suffer. I send you all warm hugs and wish you peace and comfort. Story 55. She had a dream that I cheated on her a year before we broke up, and that made her jealous and irrational. For a whole year we fought over any little thing, and she would bring up the supposed cheating even though it never happened because she believed her dreams were always true. I could not take it anymore. Afterward, she told people I was a cheater. My current wife knew her. They were acquaintances, not friends, and she never liked her because she was so negative and insecure. After our breakup, she had a cosmetic surgery spree, and that is the last I heard. Story 56. I'm not sure if I've met the love of my life yet. I thought I had a couple of times, but if it was a lie, it couldn't count. I know someone who has been in a 5-year relationship, maybe longer now. He was my close friend since middle school, and we briefly had a long-distance relationship in high school for a month or 2. He still speaks to me as a friend, but despite the love he has for his partner, whom he plans to marry, he remains in love with me. For years, he has wondered what might have happened if we had stayed together. He feels our souls are tied somehow and has expressed these feelings to his partner, but I would never, in a million years, interfere with their relationship. I'll always be his friend and supporter, but I don't want to get in the way. If he can truly get over me and be happy with her, I support him. If they ever broke up and he wanted one last chance with me, I would take it. Story 57. Imagine not marrying the love of your life, assuming they are still alive. The game is gone. Story 58. She was not the love of my life, but she was my first love. We were married for about 6 years and have been divorced for 10. I was an extremely depressed alcoholic and a serial cheater. I was a terrible husband and not a very good person to be around. Am now sober and with someone I consider the love of my life. I did a lot of self-reflection between relationships, and it took me years to get a handle on my mental health. My ex recently remarried a former friend of mine. That former friend messaged me, threatening to expose all the wrongdoings I committed more than 10 years ago. I guess she and her current husband still think about me for some reason. I posted his message on social media and said I beat him to it. I could not care less what those two get up to. I had hoped they had found happiness, but I guess they chose to be miserable and bitter. It made me feel good about the progress I have made, and my current partner supports me in many ways. I do not regret anything. I feel I had to walk that path to be where I am now. Story 59. We are very good friends now. We talk nearly every day. He and my current husband have the same job. But honestly, he would not have been a good partner. We had different ideas and needs at the time, and we both knew it. Love is wonderful, but it is not going to be the most important thing when something completely blindsides you on a Tuesday afternoon. I needed someone who matched me better. Story 60. Most move on and are happy. A few still think about or casually keep in touch with their ex. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.